So this class is called Brain Teasers. What to do when your answer is I don't know. And in the end, I might not be able to get you guys to be able to answer every single question, but you should have a general understanding about how to answer a question if you don't know the answer to it. So without further ado, let's move on to the first question. This question says American Express because American Express asked this question to some of their during some of their interviews. I'm not sure exactly which position, so I won't make one up for you guys. But this question was asked to an interviewee during an interview. So I'll read it to you guys, and then you guys can ask me any questions you have for clarification. And I do have the right to say I won't answer questions, and I have earlier. So, which one of these pieces of information would be most useful in estimating the number of people who work in a 30-story building? A, the number of cars in the parking lot. B, the number of people eating lunch in the cafeteria. Or C, the number of people on the 11th floor. So before we start, I'm going to tell you guys there is no 100% right answer. But there is an answer that you guys can argue, and it's about how you see it, and it all depends on people's personalities. So let's start off with questions rather than solutions, or rather than answers. Do you guys have any questions about like where the building is or something? Yeah?
Are there equal number of people per floor?
So the question was, are there equal number of people per floor? No, we don't know. We can't assume that. Yeah?
What's the building used for?
The building is used for Donald Trump Enterprises. They're multi-use.
Well, first of all, you just let everyone in that building.
Is there a residential area near this building?
Could you ask your question in a different way?
Do people drive cars to this building?
Okay. I will tell. So the question was, do people drive cars to this building? I will tell you, it is in an urban area. Yes.
That's the one cafeteria. Start on one.
There's only one cafeteria in the building.
And is it for all the jobs?
It is for all the jobs, and the time is a random number, so you don't know. So it doesn't have to be lunchtime. Yeah.
No, never mind.
Okay. Questions only, no solutions right now. Yeah. In the back.
Is there any form of public transportation that stops near the building?
The question was, is there any form of public transportation that stops near the building? It's in an urban area, so you can assume so. Yes?
Is this the same number of people on each floor?
Someone asked that, no. Yes.
Well, are any Westmarks nearby?
I'm not answering that. Yes?
Is there a small or large branch of Senate company?
The question was, is it a small or large branch in Zeta company? Let's say it's medium sized for Donald Trump. Any other questions? Yeah? Not necessarily. Not necessarily everyone eats at the same time. Last question. Yep.
Is the 11th floor somehow very different from the other floors? Like, is there some very, like, crowded?
Is there anything?
Yeah, is there anything special?
So the question was, is there anything special about the 11th floor? We don't know that, and I'm not going to answer that. So, yeah. So now let's hear some solutions.
With how many are the windows uniform on the building?
Yes, the windows are uniform in the building. Okay, let's hear some solutions. How many people have solutions? Okay, a couple of you guys. So let's start in the back.
The number of cars in the parking lot, because even though some people would bike and walk, I would assume most people that are already working would have cars to drive to work.
Yeah. So the solution was A, the number of cars in the parking lot, because even though some people might bike or walk, there are some people that most people would drive to work. Okay. So does anybody disagree with this? Yeah.
Well, people do carpool, and not everyone drives, so it wouldn't be a very good estimate.
Yeah. So he said some people carpool and so it wouldn't be that great of an estimate. So my question for you is, which one do you think is the best estimator?
Me?
Yeah.
I would say C.
So he said C, the number of people on the 11th floor. How come?
Well, I would estimate that there's about the same number of people on each floor.
Okay. And now, why not B?
I would argue B, I guess.
But why would, so if you chose C, why would you argue against B?
Against B is, well, not everyone would eat lunch in the cafeteria. Maybe they would go elsewhere.
Yeah, so he said not everyone eats in the cafeteria, so they might go elsewhere. Like, they might eat at their desk, they might go to Sushi Rito, which might be like down right on the first floor, or something else. Yep.
You said like for the cafeteria, it can be at random times, so it could be like 1 a.m. in the morning where like this area is closed.
Yeah. So he said that it might be 1 a.m. in the morning whereas the cafeteria is closed. So let's assume it's during business hours, but it's not necessarily at lunchtime. We'll
It
take.
says the number of people eating lunch in the cafeteria.
What's that?
It says the number of people eating lunch in the cafeteria, not the number of people eating at the time you see it.
Okay, so yeah, they can, I mean their lunch can be whatever time, but let's just assume people eating for this. Yeah.
Can I still ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Do they get a discount if they eat at the cafeteria?
The question is, do they get a discount if they eat at the cafeteria? So what I've been telling earlier groups is, let's assume that there's no food provided at the cafeteria, it's just a communal space for them to eat. If that makes sense. Anybody else with any solutions? Okay, yeah.
Say it's probably B, because it's a lot easier to account for the factor of people that eat lunch in cafeterias than it is to, because that could be most of the people working at the first floor as accountants or something, and then no one in the 11th floor.
So his response was at B because he said it's good because of the factor that there might be more people. Like that's the best factor. We're seeing like how many people there are people that are in the cafeteria.
I generally would estimate that in Trump's particular case, probably wouldn't be at the cafeteria, but in say a factory or something, most of the people would be in the cafeteria. Let's say 90%. In something more high-paying, probably less. And I don't know how well Trump pays. So.
Yeah. Okay. So he said that because Trump might not pay as much as other companies, more people might eat at the cafeteria, right?
No, I'm saying that Trump would pay more, so probably closer to half or so.
Okay, so closer to half or so. So then you would just account for that, like half of the people eating at the cafeteria, and then double the amount of people in the cafeteria.
Probably something around that.
But you don't know it's lunchtime.
Okay. Yeah. So
It says how many are eating lunch.
Yeah. So we can assume that it might be lunchtime. We can assume that it's not. However, when you answer this question, the main point of it that American Express interviewers were looking for is, like, if you can pick one, argue it, and tell me why like the other two don't work. And in the end, you could be right, you could be right, anybody else could be right. And in the end, we can also assume that the 11th floor is storage for some reason. And how many people are in there? Like maybe a couple at max. I mean, that works too. Or skeletons. And the number of cars in the parking lot. So if I were answering this question, I would personally say the number of cars in the parking lot is not the best estimator, just because of the fact that it's in an urban area. So like being from Chicago, I know that most people take public transportation regardless of like whether they're wealthy or not, just because it's a smarter thing to do, because it's faster, it's more cost effective, and it's good for the environment. Yeah. So do you guys want to move on to the next question? Okay. So the next question is this long question. So I'll read it out to you guys. There are 13 prisoners in a straight line, facing the same direction. They each have a hat, black or white. Each prisoner will be asked which color hat they are wearing, and they may only say black or white. The guards will begin at the end of the line. If the prisoner can correctly guess the color of the hat, he will not be executed. They planned the night before, and 12 of them survived. How did they do this? So a little disclaimer: you can't do kicks, you can't do taps. There's nothing else. You can only say black or white. So how many of you guys have heard this question and know the answer? Okay, so you guys don't participate for this one until the end, unless we can't figure it out. So, are there any questions you guys have for me? Yeah.
Are they notified of this dilemma the night before?
They're notified of this dilemma the night before, but they don't know the hat color.
And they don't know the order there.
Yeah, they don't know the order they're placed in until like that time.
So they're given a hat on the day, but they know it's gonna happen like the day before.
Yeah. So the question was, if they were given the hat.
They're given the problem.
Yeah.
They need to solve it.
So they're given like the situation that was gonna happen tomorrow, which is like they're gonna get lined up, and they have to guess their hat, or else they're gonna be executed. And with this said, like they plan something, and like in the end, their plan like leads them to 12 of them to be guaranteed to survive with a possibility of 13.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions? Yeah, in the back.
Do you know how many are white and how many are black?
in terms of the hats.
Yeah.
So the question was, do we know how many white hats or how many black hats there are? And we don't know how many there are, and there aren't a set amount. And we just know that they can't be even because 13 isn't allowed to be. Yeah? Yes?
Do they have access to reflections, like there's a window or?
No, they don't. They have, the only thing they can see is they can see the people in front of them, and they can hear the people behind them, but they can't, that's it. Yeah? Okay. Yep.
Just so they can hear the people behind them, so they can just talk and say what they see, and the guy all the way in the back just dies because no one can see what just happens.
So the thing is that they can hear like what the person said behind them, but the only thing they can say is black or white, and they can only say it once. Yeah.
Sign language?
Was that no?
Will they pull you out of the line immediately for a wrong answer?
No. Yes.
If someone's pulled out, if they are pulled out the line, couldn't the guy just start yelling? Like, what each person is?
So the question was, if
It's not
they're pulled out of the line, then can't the prisoner just start yelling what each person has? No, they can't do that.
It's a math problem, not a practical problem.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yep.
The prisoners seen the colors of their hats already.
The prisoners have not seen the colors of their hats. So they're blindfolded until they're put in line. The hats are put on their heads, and then the blindfold is taken off, and they can't look up or anything. Yep.
Can I see the colors of the hats in front of them?
What was that?
Can I see the colors of other people's hats?
The question was if they can see the colors of other people's hats. Yes, they can. They can see the colors, and they can hear the colors that were shouted.
See the colors of the front.
Yes. So does anybody have a solution that has not heard of it before? Yeah?
Could the first person just say the color of the hat in front of them, and then everyone just says the color of the hat in front of them, so the first person might die because they don't really know, but then the rest of them would survive because they would hear the person in front of them.
Okay, so that's one way of getting it. However, I'm going to challenge that. So let's say me and her are in line, and I'm the last person, and I say, and I know she's wearing a black hat, and I say black, and like I die because I was wearing white. So now she knows she's wearing black, and let's say I'm in front of her, and with that, then how would she tell me? And say I'm wearing a white hat and she says black, then I'm going to say, oh, maybe I have black, and I actually have white. So that's why that solution is a little faulty. Yeah?
It means like code words.
The question was, can they use code words? They cannot. They can only say black or white.
They convey one bit of information.
They convey whether it's black or whether it's white.
One bit.
Yeah.
Could be on or off, or
No, they can only
hat
say.
or not wearing a hat. Like it doesn't really matter exactly. What
Yeah.
it is. It's one bit.
Yep.
So
you
can't use like inflection to tell the person over
So you said that they can use inflection to tell the person in front of them what color hat they're wearing, but how would they use that?
So you wear a black hat and you figure that out by the person behind you who's probably dead.
How did you figure it out?
Because they told you the color. The person at the end of the line has to sacrifice himself and tell you the color of the hat you're wearing. So they have a 50-50 chance, basically, of getting it right. But now you know the color of the hat you're wearing, so you could say the word for the color, but pronounce it in a certain way. If that makes sense. Like,
So one of the solutions that I didn't come up with, but someone in the previous section did. So they said that they could say in a high-pitched voice if it's white, and in a low-pitched voice if it's black. So if I were right behind her, and she were wearing a black hat, but I thought I was wearing a white hat, and say her at the end, I could say white, because in a low-pitched voice you would say it to indicate that it's black. And that way she would know, and you could continue on. And that's one solution. Whereas like I think that one's a little more obvious to the guards, so they would be able to like know that you guys like planned this. So another solution. Does anybody have another solution in mind? Yeah.
You manipulate the length of the word. Like if you're white would be like shorter, so you'd be like if your hat was black, but then the person in front was white, you'd say like black. And like if it was like your hat was white, the person in front was had a black hat, then it'd be like white.
Yeah. So you're saying you could change the length of the word. So like if the person in front of you is wearing a white hat, you would say like black, and if they're wearing a black hat, you could say black.
Yeah.
So we could, I guess, bin those all into something that like you just mess around with the pronunciation. But there's one more way.
The math way.
Yeah, there's a
No
mathematical way.
manipulation. You miss.
Anybody else? I can share it. Okay. So I'll share it just because I have the microphone. So, but you can tell me if you have any suggestions.
All right.
So, what you're gonna do? So what they're gonna do is, so the person at the end of the line is a person that may or may not die. They have 50-50 chance of like having a white hat or a black hat. So they're just gonna have to, I guess, be lucky. And they're gonna talk about this the night before. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna say the person in the back is gonna be designated to say black or white. So they're gonna say black if the number of black hats is odd, and they're gonna say white if the number of black hats is even. And then so based on what I say, if I say black and I'm at the end, so she can look forward because she's right in front of me. She can look forward and count how many black hats there are, and if there's an even number and there's supposed to be an odd, she knows she's that extra hat. Does that make sense? Okay, and then because of the fact that the person all the way in the front can hear everybody, he can just deduce to see like if he's the last one to complete the even or odd. Does that make sense? Is there anybody that has any clarifying questions for that? Yeah?
I thought the number of hats, or the number of like black hats and the number of white hats were clarified.
So the question was whether or not the number of white hats or black hats wasn't clarified before. It wasn't, but the person in the back is able to see everybody's hats in the front, so he can count them. Yeah?
I thought they were in a straight line.
So, yeah, so I think I mentioned it. So yeah, it's in there. So you can see forward, because if they were in a straight line completely and they could only see the person in front of them, that would be kind of faulty and a little harder. But they can look forward, but they can't look at their hat. Okay. Yeah.
Are all the hats in a black and white or like black, white, black, white?
No, they're in black patterns. Like it can be black, 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 white, black, 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 white.
Solution should work for whatever
Yeah.
order has however many, if there's all black, all white.
Yeah, as long so he said that the solution should work for as many as long as it's even if it's all black, all white. As long as well, the only way it would work, I'm trying to think. The only way it would be faulty is if they were all white. I wonder.
It would work. No.
No problem. I guess you could say even. I guess you could say it's even, and then they see it's all white, so they're like, okay, so they would be in that case. They would be the only other way. Yeah. So I mean, they could just like clarify this because like I guess it could be confusing. So if it's all white, and I could say even, and then he knows that the number of people. So he sees that everybody else has white in front of him. So he knows that if he's black, then that would make it odd because it's 1. So even though like 0 isn't even, you can still use that method. Is it even?
0 divided by 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
0. No, but.
Okay, so now I have a question for you guys. Do you guys want to go based on? Do you guys want to go and continue with these kind of questions, like the prisoner questions, or do you guys want to like a more mathematical question, like how many ping pong balls fit into the average dorm room? So, math or prisoners?
Prisoners.
So let's get a consensus. So raise your hand if you want math. Okay, prisoners? Okay, prisoners it is. So we might be able to hit everything depending on how time is going. So let's go with this one next. Yeah, I'll read it to you guys. You have 3 switches in a room. One of them is for an incandescent light bulb in the next room. You cannot see whether the light bulb is on or off until you enter the room. What is the minimum number of times you need to go into the room to determine which switch corresponds to the bulb in the next room, and how? So have you heard this one? Once again, does not answer. Have you heard this one before? Okay, any question? We're only doing questions right now. Yeah, question?
Do you know whether, like, if the switch, when the switch is down, it's off, and the switch is up, it's on, or do you not know anything about the switches?
So the question was if we know like whether up means on and down means off, correct? So yeah, so you do know. So it's a normal switch. So like on means up, and then up means on, and then the other way around.
Is flipping the switches, does it, can any of the switches, can multiple of the switches do the same, do it?
So only one switch works for the light bulb, and the other 2 do other things which are irrelevant. Okay. In the back? Yeah.
Do you have to switch on one at a time, or do you just like resolve them on at once?
You can. So the question was if you can switch them all at once, or you have to do it one at a time. You can switch them on all at once, however many times you want, as long as you have the minimum number of times. Question?
Wait, so the other two switches just don't do anything? If you...
So the question was whether or not the other two switches do anything. Yeah, they don't do anything. They do something, because they do something that's irrelevant to the situation. Okay. Yep.
Does the light bulb start on or off?
Let's assume they all start off.
Okay.
But yeah, they all the switches are off. Yep. Let's do a couple more questions, and then I'll come to you. Yep.
Wait, so all the switches are off, so you go into the switch room first, not the light bulb room.
You go into the switch room first.
Okay.
Yeah. Last
Are the
question.
walls see-through?
So the question was if the walls are see-through. No, they're not. And there's a door, so like you can't see under or anything.
How many people are involved?
Just you.
Um,
In the back.
Do you get to go in the light bulb room before you go to the switches?
You do not get to go in the light bulb room before you go to the switches. So I'll ask you, how many of you guys think the minimum is 3 or more? It's okay. Is it nobody? 2 or more? Okay. Who thinks it's 1? Okay, so I have a way that would be able to do 1. So does anybody want to share how to do 2?
You flip 2 of them on. If it doesn't go on, then you flip the other one on, and that's the one.
Yeah.
If it does go on, then you flip one of them off.
Yeah. Okay. So he said so you flip 2 of them on at once. You go in. If it's not on, then you flip the other one and you check. Then it has to be that one. Or if you if say like there's one it is on and you flip the 2 switches originally, then you switch one of them off and tell which one it is. Did you want to add something else?
So the question is, what is the minimum of the time you need to go? Like, it's not well defined. You can just flip one on and then you could get it right.
Well, to be guaranteed.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to clarify, it's how many switches do you need? How many times do you have to go back and forth in order for it to be guaranteed? So does anybody else think it's 2? Do you think it's? Do you want to share why?
Oh, I think the same way.
Okay. Does anybody have a different reason for 2? Yeah.
You can flip one switch on and then and if it's still off, then you can flip one for the other 2.
Yeah. So it can be inverted. So like you can switch one on and then try the other 2, and then that would eventually you could do that. However, there is no solution to do 1. Does anybody know? Yeah.
You can flip one on and leave it on for a really long time, then flip it off and flip a different one on. If you go into the room and it's on, then the one that you just flipped on is the one that corresponds to it. If it's off, if it's off and it's really warm, then the one that you flipped earlier is the one that corresponds to it.
Yeah, so the key word in here is incandescent, meaning it doesn't matter if it's like one of those spiral economy, like the ones that like save the ecosystem, and instead like it's one of those that you can feel the warmth. So the solution is you turn one on, you leave it on for like let's say an hour, then you come back, and then you turn it off, you turn on the second one, and this can be done in any order. So once you turn on the second switch and you go in the room, and so if it's on, then it's the second switch. If it's off and it's warm, it's the first switch. But if it's neither on nor warm, it would be the last switch. You guys follow? Yeah?
Can't you get it at 0 by just like unscrewing the light and then just checking the path of the wires?
I mean that could be 0, but like
just put a hole in the wall.
eventually like, you don't want to get a hole in the wall. Like your mom will be mad at you, of course.
You don't want to, but it's not saying that you can't.
Okay.
That is the fastest.
Does anybody have any other questions about it? Yep.
I don't think any interviewer would say this problem because this type of problem is phrased very much that's a Mac problem. And a similar solution would be, okay, I break through a wall, I don't even need to go one time through the door. I take off the door and go through.
Yeah.
Or I, dismantle the C the way the wire goes. It's not like an
I goes through the window and the door.
And the interviewer doesn't care
You said that
you don't know what that incandescent light bulbs are warm.
Yeah, so you're saying that an interviewer might not care, but I'm not saying that this question might be asked in an interview. The last one, the American Express one, was asked in an interview. However, this one may or may not be asked in an interview, and it might just be for your personal fun. So, it might be for your personal fun, or I was asked this in a class once in high school.
What if you had a really, really thick, a light bulb with really, really thick touchpads and cords so it lasts a really long time and you die of old age before it can burn out?
Well, it doesn't have to burn out. So he said like, what if you die? Like it's really long wires and like it burns out, or like it doesn't burn out but you die. So like it doesn't have to burn out. It just has to be warm, which is
What
like.
if the room is really, really, really big? The room with the light bulb in it is really, really big and the light bulb is tiny.
Well, the light bulb would emit heat, so like the heat would be on the light bulb. So like, have you ever like?
Yeah, but the light, it's like a gigantic tower in the Arctic.
Yeah. Okay.
And the light bulb is at the top of the tower.
So let's assume it's a normal room.
Then you have to try harder.
But what's a normal room?
Okay, let's assume it's in this room, and these lights are in this room.
Can't lights up there.
Okay, well let's say you can.
Anyway,
Anyway,
if you try higher contractor to get the light bulb.
so yeah, you can assume that like these are questions that are like making the solution a little more difficult, but we can simplify the question and leave it at the answer that we mentioned.
If you do this kind of trick, if you answer, you can answer a trick question. Like you don't specify the kind of room, so it could be any kind of room. So this won't always work.
Okay, so it might not always work, but it's a possible solution. So we're gonna move on to the next prompt, and the next prompt is a little longer. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to read that, but I'll read it to you as well. 100 prisoners have been newly ushered into prison. The warden tells them that starting tomorrow, each of them will be placed in an isolated cell, unable to communicate amongst each other. Each day, the warden will choose one of the prisoners uniformly at random with replacement and place him in a central interrogation room containing only a light bulb with a toggle switch. The prisoner will be able to observe the current state of the light bulb. If he wishes, he can toggle the light bulb. So like, that means that he can turn it on or off. He also has the option of announcing that he believes all the prisoners have visited the interrogation room at some point in time. If this announcement is true, then all prisoners are set free, but if it's false, all prisoners are executed. The warden leaves and the prisoners huddle together to discuss their fate. Can they agree on a protocol that will guarantee their freedom? And just because I know someone's going to bring it up and they're going to say yes or no, I also want to know how. Okay. Do you guys have any questions, or do you guys have solutions? Okay, has anybody seen this question? Has anybody seen this one before?
Yes, but I also have a question.
Okay, you can do questions first.
Does the light bulb start on or off?
You can choose. You guys can assume like whichever one. So let's say it starts off. Yep.
What happens if you toggle the switch? Yeah.
It turns it on or off. It's like a normal light switch.
So you just flip.
Yep.
What do you mean by you will choose one of the prisoners uniformly at random with replacement?
So the question was, what do I mean by if he chooses a prisoner randomly with replacement? So that just means that say we're all the prisoners and I get chosen once, and I can be chosen like 100 times before she's chosen, just because of the fact that I'm back in the batch. And like even though it's very unlikely for that to occur, it can still occur. Yep.
In the second to last sentence, it says that the prisoners huddle together to discuss their fate. I mean, they can talk and reveal their experiences with this.
Yeah. So to clarify, the prisoners huddle the night before, and they can't talk after that because they're being placed into isolation. Yeah. Yep.
It's only one person a day that goes in, right?
Sure.
Can a person go in multiple times?
So the question was, can a person go in multiple times? Yes. They can go in. You can go in 1,000,000 times before she goes in once. Okay. Any other questions? No? Yeah?
Can you do anything else in the room?
You can't do anything else but turn on the light or turn it off. Like someone said earlier, break the light bulb. You can't do that. Because let's say that would cause everybody to be executed. Okay, yeah?
How much time do you have to spend in the room?
So the question is, how much time do you have to spend in the room? Let's say that information is irrelevant and you can you just have to turn on or off. Like what the contents of the interview don't matter. Yes?
Didn't like one prisoner go in, turn it on, and then another prisoner go in, turn it off, and it can just count like that?
But who would be counting?
The person after first person goes in, turns it on, another person goes in, they know another person was there, they turn it off, and it's sort of like a cycle.
Then the next person.
So then he's saying that like one person goes in, turns it on, and the next person goes in and turns it off, right? And then you keep going until like you count. So the thing is like you can't keep track of that because like what if I go in twice? Do I turn it on or off, and then do I keep on going? Or like what if how do I know, like who knows to be counting? Okay. You in the back?
Are you allowed to burn off the light bulbs?
Let's say the light bulb lasts forever. Did you have a question? Yeah.
I have a solution.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions before we go to the solutions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah. What's your question?
Can you move the toggle switch like a tiny bit?
You cannot move the toggle switch a tiny bit. It has to be fully up or fully down. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can they ask the wardens anything?
Whatever happens between the interviews is irrelevant. Yep.
Is it possible for other prisoners to know if a prisoner is in the room?
It's one per day.
So it's one per day, and they're in isolation, so they can't see into the room, they can't see near the room or anything. They can't see anything but themselves. Yep.
Are they allowed to write on the wall?
They are not allowed to write on the wall. Good question. Yep.
Are the prisoners able to keep track of what days?
The prisoners are able to count the days, and they can count. We can assume they can count. Yep.
Is there one every single day?
Is there one every single day? Yes. Yep.
Is this a trick question or just a pure math question?
There are trick questions, but there are some.
Like,
so
it's
there are
not
some-
like, break the wall or.
It's not break the wall. There's no you can't do that. Let's assume in a real prison, you can't break the wall. And there are statistical solutions to these, and I can email this to you guys whenever. Yep.
Could they leave some clothes back or something?
Could they what?
Could they leave clothes?
No, they can't. They cannot undress. Yeah.
You said they're not allowed to write, but are they allowed to scrape symbols into the wall?
They are not allowed to do anything. They can count on their hand and that's it. Yeah.
Is the room cleaned every day?
That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's clean every day. Let's say it's the same state every time. So it doesn't get dirtier. Yep.
Does the light bulb retain its state from the day before?
So yes, it does. So the question was, does the light bulb retain its state from the day before? Yes, it does. So if I go in there and I turn it on, the next day, if he goes in there, it's still going to be on, assuming that he went right after me. Yes?
Is the room soundproof? So if you scream really loud,
Yes, the room is soundproof. Any other questions before we go to solutions? Yes?
Is this problem possible?
This problem is possible. There are 3 solutions at Washington University. I'm not sure if it's Washington State or Washington actual University. They recognize these questions, these solutions, and they've proven them statistically. Did you have a question? Yeah. Okay.
Are the isolation cells soundproof?
Are the isolation cells soundproof? Yes. Yes?
I have a solution.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions? Yeah. Last question.
Is this actually, the warden tells them that this is gonna happen, but does it actually happen? Or is this just while he's telling them that this is gonna happen?
So the question was, does the warden actually interview them?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Okay, so now we can go into solutions. What do you think?
You just said it's possible.
Yeah, so I mean, in the beginning.
It doesn't ask how. It
In the
just says
beginning,
whether
when
it's possible.
I was reading the question, I mentioned that I knew someone was going to say yes or no, so I wanted to know how. Yeah.
So the prisoners, they're 100 prisoners, and they know that they're 100 prisoners. Prisoner goes in, does not turn off the light, and so the next prisoner goes in, lights off, knows there's a prisoner been in there. Prisoner is picked twice, he turns on the light, so the next prisoner knows not to count that day. And so the number of days go through, and once the 100 days have been hit without any lights on, then they know the time's up.
But yeah, how do they communicate that? Because you can, so let's say 100 days pass, and I go on the first day, and then the lights stay off, and you go on the last day. How am I supposed to know? And I don't go subsequent days until the 100th and the millionth time, the millionth day. Yeah.
I can explain.
Okay.
So, on the first day, the first prisoner goes in and keeps the light off.
Great.
However, if he ever goes back in, he turns the light on so that the other prisoners will know not to count that day. once all the prisoners have counted up 100 days.
But only one prisoner
Oh,
can
wait,
see
no.
that.
Yeah, so-
That doesn't,
So-
wait, no, that doesn't work because sometimes,
Let's pay attention.
yes, because sometimes, you could miss a day.
Yeah. So like,
You could miss a day with the light on.
Someone could.
so the solution that you presented was that one person goes in and like and they don't turn on the light bulb until they've gone twice, and then they count that into 100. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I was trying to repeat the solution.
Yeah. So the only issue with that is that you wouldn't be able to count, like you wouldn't have nobody is there in the room and they don't know whether the light is on or off unless they're being interviewed. Yep.
You just ask the warden.
So whatever the wording you talk about is irrelevant in this situation. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you leave the switch off if it was already off, but not have to say yes?
Now I have to say what? So in other words, you like, so you just like wait until they're all free.
So like, don't do anything.
So if you don't do anything in the room, that's not going to be necessary to get you the solution. It will not necessarily get you the solution that we want. So I can go in and explain unless you know you have the answer. Do you know you have the answer? Okay.
Okay, so they count the days until like someone knows, like whoever it is, someone knows that everyone's been there. And then they just wait until that guy is interviewed. So at some point it's probably
But like, how will they know he hasn't been there? Because so what you're saying is like they count the days until they know everybody but one person has gone in, and then once that person goes in, they go. But there's no form of communication. Like they're in isolated cells that they can't see anything but their cell. So they can't.
So basically before, like the night before, they just like, all right, no one announce it unless you were the one who's made the last count who like saw that.
But you, how would that person be able to see it?
Oh, because he like counted days and
So even if you count days, so let's say you count to 100, right?
No, but like he counts the days and then he doesn't count the days where the light is on.
Okay, but he can't. There's no guarantee that he will go into the room. So now I'm just gonna go into explain the solution so that we can have the time to go into one more. Okay, yeah.
So this doesn't have a 100% completion rate, but you can just wait for a really, really long time, and then it's very likely that all of them have gone into the interrogation room at some point, and then you can say.
Yeah, so you're saying you could just wait for a really, really long time, and it's very likely that they've all gone.
Yeah.
So we want something that can guarantee their freedom. Like this is likely. So I'm just gonna present the answer. There are a few recognized by Washington University, as I mentioned. So what they do? So the prisoners gather together, and they don't know who's gonna be the first one, but they're gonna have one designated counter. Let's say I'm the counter. What that counter is gonna do is the counter has the ability to turn the light on, and that's the only ability he has. And if the light is off, and and everybody else only has the ability to turn the light off if the light is on, and if it's on, they do nothing. Also, if they've gone more than once and the light is on, they do nothing. So what the counter is going to do? So the counter is going to turn the light on. He's going to write down one tally mark. Because that's where he is. That's when he is gone. So one prisoner has gone. So then he's gonna go. He's gonna be called again eventually. Like we can assume it's within reasonable time. But like if it's for in like a really really long time, that's okay too. So once he goes again and the light is off, he knows someone else is gone. And you don't double count because as I mentioned earlier, you're already the people who have gone more than once do nothing. And then he keeps counting until he gets to 100, and then he's the only one that can announce it, and everybody else does not. Do you guys follow?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah?
This would take 10,000 days.
This would take 10,000 days?
Well,
And-
like reasonable, like it would take a really long time.
It would take a really long,
minimum
yeah, so he's saying it could take like a really, really long time, and yeah, it can take a really long time, but that's that's one of the only ways you can guarantee their freedom.
What are the others?
So the others, I won't go over them, but so I don't know why they're not popping up, but I can send you guys a link that Washington University published, and within this link there are 3 protocols that they go about, and they explain each one using statistical analyses. Okay? Yeah, so let's move on to the last one because we have 3 minutes. Okay, I haven't done this one today, so yeah. So there's a knife, a gun, and a stick in a room. One man is dead, and a different man is outside smiling. Explain the situation.
Is there blood?
Yes.
Where's the dead man?
The dead man is in the room, and he and the three objects are the only thing in the room.
What kind of window broken?
Hmm?
Is the window broken?
It's 4 solid walls and one
what
door.
kind of injuries does he have?
He has a gun wound.
And no battering wounds and no knife wounds?
No battery wounds and no knife wounds. Yep.
Is the door broken down or unlocked?
What was that?
Is there like a roof and a ground?
So the question is if there's a roof. Let's assume there's a ceiling.
Wait, made of concrete?
It's made of concrete.
Is the door open, broken, or
But there are no
unlocked?
windows.
There are no windows. There's only one door. And the door is made of steel, so it can't be broken.
Is it
Yeah.
Is the smiling man related to the situation, or is it just?
The smiling man is related to the situation. Yep.
What's the like
Is the door
insanity of the smiling man?
We can assume there's a motive for what happened, but he didn't kill the man.
Is he like crazy?
That's irrelevant.
Is the door intact? Is the door locked?
The
Man
door,
committed
the
suicide
door is
and the other
unlocked.
guy's
Wait,
happy.
yeah. So the guy did commit the guy on the inside did commit suicide.
The guy
And
committed
then the
suicide,
guy
the
outside
other
is
guy's
happy that he's dead.
independently happy.
So he's happy that he's dead, but that doesn't explain the situation with a knife and a stick.
It just happens to be.
Yeah. You guys can keep asking as many questions. It's gonna take a while. Yep.
So, has he held on? Does it seem like he was trying to choose between them?
No. I'll give you guys a hint. One object is very important to the dead man.
Stay down.
And it's not the gun.
Oh.
Is this a math question?
No, it's not. Yeah.
Okay, so there's only no stab wound and no gunshot wound, right?
Yeah, no stabbing and no gunshot wound. There's only one gunshot wound and that's it.
Where is the gunshot?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yep.
Was the stick like the dead man's like best friend or something?
He needed it, but it was not his best
The
friend.
stick cheated on him.
Yes.
Is the man old?
What is the condition of the stick?
The condition of the stick is. Okay, that's a good question. I'm not gonna
Dead
answer.
man's cane?
What is it?
It's the dead man's cane.
It's the dead man's cane.
The dead man's old.
The dead man is not old. He has some sort of disability.
Oh, yes.
Someone said it?
The dead man is
The dead man had.
So the dead man is blind and that's his walking stick. So now explain the situation with why the man is outside happy and the knife.
The man outside is happy entirely independently. He was
It's
visiting.
related.
He was visiting and he was
Is this
happy.
in an insane asylum?
This is not in the same asylum.
He was visiting his
These
friend.
two guys know each other.
These two guys do know each other.
He was happy because he was about to visit.
He knows
his
the
friend.
situation. He knows that the man inside is dead. Yes.
Did the man outside influence the dead man to kill himself?
Indirectly. So it looks like that it's actually time to go. So I'm gonna explain it really quickly. Usually, like you keep going back and forth, and this is I'm trying to think of what it's called. But I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but I can figure it out if you guys care enough. Like my email's up here. But so the two men are midgets, and they're at a carnival, and they're like in a carnival, and the shorter man gets paid more. So what the guy on the outside was doing is he was cutting off dating the person's blind the walking stick, and so the person thinks he's getting taller because he has to hunch over and he's blind, so he doesn't know it's just getting smaller. He thinks he's getting taller, so he's so like depressed that he's getting taller that he kills himself. And the person outside is happy because he's now the shortest one. Yeah, and sometimes with questions like this, we're gonna leave off with what.